Do you have a crush on someone who seems to show interest but consistently keeps you at arm's length? Or are you dating someone who makes you feel more like a guest in their life than a partner who belongs there, even though you're supposed to be? Are you reading too much into it? Or did you perhaps do something to prompt their distance? The truth might not be about you at all. It's possible to be liked or even loved by someone while they remain emotionally distant and unavailable. For many people, this pattern isn't a deliberate choice so much as a habit formed by past experiences. They may carry attachment wounds, fear intimacy, or rely on defense mechanisms that make emotional closeness feel unsafe, and they might push you away even when a genuine connection is what they secretly want. How can you tell if that's what's happening? Before you pour more time into hoping that they'll change, here are 9 clear indicators that someone could be emotionally unavailable, even if there's clear attraction. The aim of this overview is to offer clarity, not to assign blame. Let's dive in. First sign, love bombing. How does love bombing connect to emotional unavailability? In most cases, this behavior appears at the outset of a relationship. The person may strive to make you feel like you're the most special person in the world, flooding you with constant messages, memes, nonstop conversations, and extravagant declarations of affection. Everything you've ever wanted, delivered in a torrent. Then, as soon as you start to take things more seriously, they retreat. Texts slow down, their enthusiasm flagging, and you're left wondering whether it was all a performance. Yes, it often was, at least for as long as they could sustain it. Why does this happen? The answer isn't always simple. Some people who love bomb aren't fully aware of why they're doing it. For many, it's less about manipulation and more about attachment style, specifically fearful avoidant tendencies. They long for deep connection, but panic when intimacy feels too real. Research and clinical observations suggest love bombing can serve as a protective mechanism. It creates a veneer of closeness without demanding genuine vulnerability. When the moment arrives to show the messier sides of love, confession, risk, vulnerability, the person may shut down, retreating out of fear of losing control or being abandoned. Second sign, it's only physical. The chemistry is undeniable. They're affectionate, eager to be near, and physical closeness comes easily. But when you steer the conversation toward feelings, what you think or feel about the relationship, or memories from the past, their interest quickly fades. Interactions tend to stay on the surface. When you push for a deeper exchange, they divert, change topics, or retreat into casual talk. For some individuals, intimacy of the emotional kind feels more dangerous than sexual closeness. Opening up requires vulnerability, and that can feel like stepping into uncharted territory. If past hurts are part of their history, leaking their guard can feel overwhelming. Studies discussed in relationship science note that people with avoidant attachment styles often use physical intimacy as a substitute for emotional connection. They may physically engage while emotionally keeping their heart and thoughts distant. It doesn't necessarily mean they don't care. It can indicate they don't know how to navigate emotional closeness safely. Third sign, they're a workaholic. Ambition and a strong performance drive can be admirable and attractive, and it may initially draw you in. But with time, you might notice a creeping pattern. They become increasingly hard to reach because they're busy, literally unavailable for long stretches. Calls and texts go unanswered for hours, and when you bring it up, you're met with, "I'm swamped with work," or "I don't have time." For some people, work isn't just a job, it's a shield against vulnerability. Online guidance and therapeutic platforms focused on attachment styles describe how avoidant individuals sometimes lean into their career as a way to avoid dealing with emotional needs. Work becomes a coping mechanism that preserves a sense of control by keeping emotional exposure at bay. The more they immerse themselves in work, the less room there is for letting someone in. Fourth sign, defensiveness takes over. When you try to address a rift or express a need, the response you encounter may be a sharp retreat into defensiveness. You might ask why they don't share their feelings more openly or why distance reappears when you try to connect, only to hear, "Why are you always so dramatic?" or "You're never satisfied, are you?" For emotionally unavailable people, emotional intimacy can feel threatening because vulnerability has been associated with discomfort, loss of control, or betrayal in the past. They may have learned that acknowledging hurt or unmet needs invites pain, so they push back instead of facing the issue. It isn't that the feelings aren't there, it's that their walls, built to survive previous hurts, are stronger than their willingness to let you in. The only person who can decide to lower those barriers is the person who built them. Fifth sign, they're overly rational. Do your talks about feelings seem to hinge on a debate rather than a connection? It may seem like they're trying to win the argument of what you feel rather than understand it. When you open up about how much they mean to you, their replies may sound cold or dismissive. Love is just a chemical reaction in the brain, or feelings aren't real, you're overthinking it. This tendency often appears in people who try to frame love as a calculation or a theory rather than a lived emotional experience. Some researchers and therapists describe avoidant individuals as viewing emotions as unreliable or dangerous, choosing to treat love as a solvable problem rather than an experience to be felt. In such cases, emotional closeness is traded for a sense of predictability and control, even if the love they receive is genuine. Sixth sign, they claim they've never been in love. You might hear statements like, "I don't know what love is," or "I'm not sure how I feel." Beneath those words lies a deeper current. For some, love simply hasn't been something they've truly experienced. It isn't necessarily because they haven't met the right person. Rather, emotional intimacy may have always felt unsafe or inaccessible. A number of mental health resources discuss how unresolved fears about vulnerability can impede the ability to form deep emotional bonds. If someone learned early that closeness leads to pain, they may keep love at a distance even while they crave it in their bones. Seventh sign, the fawn response, the urge to be excessively agreeable. Do you find it nearly impossible to say no to someone? Do you morph your personality to fit whoever you're with? This isn't merely people-pleasing. It can be a survival strategy carried over from childhood. In dangerous or unpredictable environments, learning to please adults can be a way to stay safe. As adults, that habit can become a default mode. Apologizing constantly, feeling responsible for others' emotions, and letting boundaries blur into a gray area where your needs vanish. This fawn response isn't a sign of weakness, but of resilience that turned maladaptive. Recognizing it is the first step toward reclaiming your own needs and learning to place yourself on equal footing in a relationship. Eighth sign, relationship Groundhog Day. Do you repeatedly fall into the same pattern with the same type of partner, only to watch the exact same dynamics repeat themselves? This isn't mere bad luck. It's sometimes described as repetition compulsion, a cycle your brain uses to try to heal or rewrite past trauma. If you were raised by a critical parent, you might instinctively seek out partners who mirror that critical dynamic because, on some level, it feels familiar and solvable. A healthy, affirming relationship can feel alien at first because your nervous system expects old patterns. The unconscious mind hopes that this time you'll get the approval you never received, but you're trying to win a game with an outdated rule book. Recognizing this repetitive pattern is essential to breaking free and choosing a different path. Ninth sign, the invisible electric fence. Do you notice you have an unusually sensitive reaction to what others say or do around you, particularly when someone encroaches on your personal space or boundary? The sensation is not merely overreaction, it's a leftover defense mechanism born from prior trauma. If your sense of safety was repeatedly violated, your brain may construct an amplified barrier, a mental electric fence that jolts you at the slightest sign of closeness. The result is a hyperreactive alarm system. A stray critique can feel like a personal assault, and well-meaning advice may feel like a direct attack. This heightened sensitivity isn't about being dramatic. It reflects a brain trying to protect itself from past hurts by keeping others at a distance. Before concluding, take a moment to reflect. Could you be contributing to this dynamic without realizing it? If you've noticed a pattern of being drawn to emotionally unavailable people, you're not alone. There are many whys and hows behind that tendency, and exploring them can be illuminating. If you'd like, I can point you toward resources that discuss why some people gravitate toward relationships where emotional closeness remains elusive. In summary, recognizing these 9 signs can give you clearer insight into your relationship landscape. Love, attraction, and care can coexist with emotional distance, but they don't have to define your experience. By paying attention to these patterns, you can decide whether to set boundaries, seek a healthier balance, or choose a path that protects your emotional safety. And if you find that the other person isn't ready or able to engage more deeply, it may be best for you to walk away and invest in relationships that honor your needs and values. If you found this message helpful, consider sharing it with others who might benefit. You can also leave your thoughts, questions, or experiences in the comments, and let's foster a supportive community where people feel heard and understood. Thank you for watching, and thank you for taking a step toward greater understanding, healing, and hope. With gratitude,